All right, we should be good to go.
Okay, I will call to order the Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 virtual only meeting of the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Present.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Doug Neely,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Here.
and Chair Mike Mitchell.
Here. Okay, do we have any citizen comments?
No, we do not.
All right, we'll move on right on to discussion item number 1, which is election of chair and vice chair for 2024. Mr. Conkle, do you have any introduction on that, or we just move right to asking for nominations?
I think we'll just move right to asking for nominations, and Jacob will help kind of facilitate that.
Okay, and I'll try to keep an eye out for either real or virtual hands going up. So at this time, we'll open
You want us to use
nominations.
our virtual hands?
I don't care either way. I can see all 6 of you, all 5 of you. So I will open nominations for the office of chair of Urban Renewal Commission for 2024.
Well, if Mike Mitchell's available, he's done such a good job, I would renominate him if he cares to continue on.
I would be happy to continue on.
I'll second.
All right, are there other nominations?
Well, I was going to nominate Commissioner O'Donnell, but he beat me to the punch.
You just keep that card handy and we'll be all right.
All right, if there are no other nominations, we'll close the nominations. Jacob, if you go ahead with the
Roll call.
roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to nominations for the office of vice chair.
I nominate Commissioner Neely.
I'll second that. I'll second that nomination. Are there any other nominations?
I'll call for the question.
Okay, go for the vote, please.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, information for discussion and direction related to water quality and alternatives evaluation of Clackamat Cove. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Mr. Lewis to participate in this presentation and questions as well. The Urban Renewal Commission is well aware. We've been looking at what we can do to address the blue-green algae blooms that have occurred in the cove over the last couple of years. Several of the members participated in a site tour of Oswego Lake. Obviously a little bit different being a private lake, but still dealing with a managed system that had some of the similar characteristics to Clackamat Cove in terms of warmer water, not quite a lot of water turning over and refreshing, as well as blue-green algae blooms. But as a private lake, they were able to do a little bit more in terms of mitigation and trying to address those outbreaks to prevent them from occurring, or when they were occurring to respond to them. Based on that meeting or that site visit and then a subsequent meeting, staff was asked to look at what could we do to get a better understanding of what is potentially causing the blue-green algae blooms in Clackamat Cove. I think we've realized that we have very limited to almost no good data as to what's happening seasonally, what's changing, what's potentially driving these blooms when they do happen. I worked with John, really took the lead on this. We ended up working with one of our on-call stormwater management companies, consultants that are on the city's on-call list, Brown and Caldwell. to really help us look at and put together a comprehensive scope that could step by step walk through and try to get the data to then come up with what the data drives as potential options for solutions. And so really it was putting together a scope. You have that scope before you tonight. We'd be happy to kind of explain it, talk about it, trying to create this work plan while still having the limitations of the ability to expend urban renewal funds with the charter limitation of, as we're interpreting it, any expenditure over 1 year needs to go a vote of the people, right? So we're trying to come up with this longer term scope, but breaking it up into sections to not exceed that 1 year component. So it is a little bit of another issue we're trying to deal with while we're trying to get a better understanding of what's there. I'll go ahead and turn this over to John to see if he had anything to add on the kind of the highlights of the scope. And then we'd be happy to answer any questions unless you have some right now for me.
Okay, Mr. Lewis.
Thanks, Tony. I think you covered it well. The only thing I'd add is, yeah, the scope has got 3 phases to it as kind of written. I think if we get your blessing tonight, we'll package that with our standard RFP template language and get it out right away. We'd like to, we know we need at least a summer season of monitoring. And I think with that, that'll, I think we'll be able to, by the end of 2024, get the technical memorandum and have an opportunity to present that in front of the city commission and, have hopefully a plan moving forward into 2025. So yeah, other than timing, I think that was the only thing I think you missed, Tony. Everything else was on track with what my notes said.
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to add, just so the Urban Renewal Commission's aware, we actually we've had 2 follow-up meetings with Brown and Caldwell, but also some of the technical staff at Water Environmental Services. Obviously, on the kind of the northern part of Water Environmental Services, they do stormwater for some of those jurisdictions, so they do have that expertise in-house, and they've been really great to work with in providing us some technical review and guidance on the scope, being part of those conversations. Those conversations are going to continue in terms of trying to create some partnerships where it makes sense for both organizations. They're looking at, can we use their facility for testing, for example, to try to keep costs down. They have some relationships with the master's and graduate program at Portland State University. So potentially looking at, with their assistance, creating those relationships. Maybe there's some type of a graduate master's student or doctoral student, who this could become, one of their projects for, the testing, the data analysis. So, as we're moving forward with this, we're also moving forward in kind of that relationship part. And the one thing I have not done, haven't really reached out to the Watershed Council. Commissioner Neely had kind of talked about that. I felt like we needed to get a little further along to kind of know what we were doing before we really tried to reach out and maybe create some partnerships and relationships here that could help with this monitoring and formulating what the response is based on the data that we get. And finally, sorry, one last thing. At the very end, we tried to put some estimates on what we think the costs are going to be at the end of the staff report on page 2. Phase 1, working with Brown and Caldwell, coming up with a range. Phase 2, phase 3, just so you have some idea of what we're kind of thinking would be the expectation. So you're aware of the costs associated.
Commissioner O'Donnell, I think I saw your hand.
You did, because I would never agree to this proposal as written. And the reason I wouldn't is we had the advantage of 4 gentlemen who met and had an incredible background that we did not avail ourselves of them or the contacts they have a guy that was with the Corps of Engineers, an environmental consultant, the guy that took care of the dredging permit, extensive experience in fisheries and wildlife, a guy with a work history of DEQ, a private consultant himself in water law and water resources. Another member that we met with fish and wildlife, national marine fisheries, habitat restoration. First of all, I think the amount as proposed is obscene. And it's like did we forget what we already learned? I mean, we didn't meet again. We could have met and maybe gotten a quote from the gentleman at Lake Oswego, who's an expert in this and has done a really good job. I just look at it and we need to be more thorough in a solicitation of bids because we know the problem's been defined. We know it's nitrates in the water. We know it's matters in the water. We know it's water temperature. We know it's circulation. And we didn't, and maybe we could have, what was that company we no longer do business with?
Restore Cap.
Restore Cap. I mean, we have people that know these things and we let these people essentially define the scope of work, and it almost blew it out of proportion. We've got background knowledge. We have people that probably know people, and we did not avail ourselves of that to try it. I mean, when I see, what was it, 325,000? We have a defined problem. And I thought we should have availed ourselves of the knowledge of these other gentlemen and their contacts and searched for other solicitations, because this one is I don't know, it looks like a bureaucratic approach to make something that's maybe it's not small, but it keeps expanding it. And I think we can streamline it and with the knowledge we have and the gentlemen we know, and see if they can point us in the direction of other sources besides these folks, because this has taken a fairly defined problem and expanded it to the point where it becomes over a $300,000 endeavor. And I don't think that's necessary. That's why I think other quotes should be solicited with the input of these gentlemen who have worked in these fields for decades. And that's where I stand on it.
So just to clarify, this is the scope of work that we would put out for bid. So we don't have any bids right now. This was a kind of using an owner's rep type of a process to come up with a scope from professionals. We'd be happy to run the proposed scope with the comments from the Urban Renewal Commission through those other folks. But if once the scope is identified, then we would put it out for bid to see who would actually bid on it.
And I'm fine with that, but these people have defined the job the way they see it. I think it could be redefined by others who are more intimately acquainted with this type of thing, and maybe can point us in a more cost-effective, focused direction. And then we see which approach we want to take before we put it out for bid. But I read the thing and it just got bigger and bigger. And it's like, we have background knowledge. We have people that know people. I mean, sure, they can I say, if you want to let these guys from that first meeting, Jerry Herman, Richard Craven, John Borden, Doug DeHart, if you want to let them review it and see what they think, and maybe submit what they feel would be a cost-effective approach to a very focused problem, before we send out this proposal, I'd like to see if there's other approaches to it. And I'll leave it at that.
Mayor McGriff?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any problem with the scope of work. What I was trying to understand in it was, what are we looking at for the timing? So, because I think that, well, let's just say that we had this all wrapped up and everything, and would they be starting in the winter time to give us some sort of a benchmark, and then take it into the summer and then back into the fall again, so that we have, I mean, one of the things I want to know is what's going on with it during multiple seasons.
Right. So that was the intent, was to try to get it so that we can see what's happening before and after those warm, low flow events of, July, August, September, which is typically when we start to see this event happen. Because I think we have a lot of anecdotal evidence.
Evidence,
Don't know
yeah.
that we have, is it, water quality coming down the Clackamas, in the late summer that's coming into the cove? Is there something in the sediment in the cove? Is there something draining into the cove from off-site, upland? I think we're not, I agree. I think that the reasons are probably, there's only so many reasons we're going to get a blue-green algae, right? The low turnover, the warm water, the composition of the water. But we're not, I don't think anybody can tell you exactly why it's happening. So I think we were trying to get to the why to help formulate a response to it.
Okay, well, I guess, I don't disagree with what you said. I think it's very similar to the fact that we have a lot of observational data, but we don't have any, scientific data. We know people have been out and seen X, Y, or Z. It kind of reminds me of what happens when we're in hearings with traffic studies. The community tells you, oh, I know the traffic is going too fast. And then you come back with the information that says, well, yes, they're going too fast, but they're not going over the 5 miles an hour per speed limit. So you got the scientific data from the expert, and then you got the anecdotal information and observations from other folks. So I don't have any problem if you want to run this by the 3 professional experts that came and talked to the commission. I'm not, I'm not so sure what Mr. Herman will have to add to it, but I have no problem with having those 3 guys take a look at it. And like you said, you're going to be going out to a number of people to look at this. This is not defined by anybody other than, we have on call people. Remember, Frank? So Brown and Caldwell is on call with the city. Yeah. So we were trying to take advantage of contractors that we're already using, so we don't have to go out and do some preliminary work. Plus, obviously, they've consulted Wes. So I think this is a really good start. I think a little more definition on the timing would be good in here. And then if you can run this by those 3 fellows that we had, I think we're basically there, and then make those changes and send it out.
And I would add in the gentleman from Lake Oswego, because I mean he lives and breathes this type of thing.
Mm-hmm. So I actually spoke with Mr. Rosenkrantz.
Yeah.
And I think one, if he wanted to bid on this, he could. The other thing I was talking to him about was maybe the district or the city hires him on more of like a owner's rep professional expertise to bring that in. Because I do think he does have a knowledge base that's, directly tied to trying to address water quality, specifically blue-green algae. I just don't know if he himself has the capacity to do the data collection and analysis that's necessary. And maybe he does. Maybe he does bid on it as a consultant or puts together a team to do that. I think originally it was, let's take some water samples, but I think it's
more than that.
I think it's more than that in terms of trying to get, the winter to the spring to the early summer to the late summer to the fall, to put data to the observational findings and knowledge that we have. I think we all see it. I'm not sure if anybody can explain exactly why that's triggering it.
I like that idea of the owner's rep. We need to have somebody with a lot more expertise who's watching out for us and review the stuff of the consultant. So I think that's a great idea. Anyway,
and
remember, I'm done.
And he could also put eyes on on this proposed scope of work, right? To see to Commissioner O'Donnell's point, maybe we are going further than we need to, and maybe he has a different idea on that. Commissioner Neely, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the amount that's put forward, isn't that based on the potential bidding process? When people put the bid,
it may will, not. Yeah, we will put this out for public bid, but we asked Brown and Caldwell to kind of get us an estimate, like almost like an engineering estimate range. Just so we had some idea of the cost and investment associated with it.
Remember what we're talking about tonight. We're not talking about awarding it. We're talking about structuring it. And that's why I said involve the gentleman from Lake Oswego, or at least help us structure it along with the three gentlemen that Commissioner McGriff agrees with. There's so much
Commissioner
knowledge
Smith or
we already
Commissioner
have.
Marl, anything you want to add?
No, I don't.
So just so I can reiterate, it sounds like we want to validate this scope with with our local knowledge from the three folks that were included in the first meeting, and we want to include Mr. Rosenthal in that vetting, and then we wanted the definition of the timing. Again, I know we need to complete this work within a year.
Right.
That's what I'm understanding. And so that's going to include whenever we can issue a contract or get through the bid proposal process, bringing back to you those bids and that information. I hate to call them bids because these are consultant services, but they're,
right.
bring back what we hear from that. We could go through a request for qualifications step where we ask them to submit their team and who's using it, and then ask them for a proposal, or we could just go straight to the request for qualifications and proposal where they'd submit a price on that. But again, back to the timing, I'm understanding we need, I will tell you, all of these experts will tell you the more data, the better. But we're trying to get this done within a year, and we're trying to get a full season's worth of data. And it may turn out that the recommendation is you may need more data, but we're hoping we get to a place where it's got a list of evaluation alternatives that get evaluated, not only for just constructability or effectiveness, but will the regulatory agencies approve them? So there's definitely a lot of work here that I think is going to be something that we're going to need a small team to look at. And I love this idea of involving a college student body in a project if the timeline works. The timeline may not work well for this phase of the project. So what I'm hearing is, do you want this to come back again before we issue it, or is it just concern that we're not reaching out to those folks? So once we do that, get buy-in, we can package it and advertise it for proposals.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I think we plainly stated that we value the opinion of at least three of those initial meeting participants, plus the gentleman from Lake Oswego, in helping us formulate a focused approach to this. And as far as the stating qualifications can be, and I saw Commissioner McGriff raise their hand, they can occur concurrently with the submittal of a bid when that happens. There's no sense making that a longer process than it needs to be. And but I think we need the input of these, and these gentlemen were vetted and they stated their qualifications, and they're in that report to this day. And these are people that are used to dealing with the very bureaucracies that control these types of situations, and they're known, so their opinion has value. So I say solicit them, see what proposal is formulated, bring it back, let's get approval on it, whatever it may be, and move on in a one-step approach, which is you state your qualifications and your proposal at the same time. And as far as timing, you're right. I mean, we'd like it to be throughout the seasons. I mean, it's now January. It would be nice to start end of March or even April, because then you get your spring flow and you start watching your water temperature change, and you watch that contribution and you look at your runoff. I mean, it's a valid project, but we could do a good job on it. We just need to structure it at first so we know what we're shooting for and focus on that.
Commissioner Neely, did you have something else?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
A couple things, not to be negative, but what happens if we have a cool summer and we don't even see an algae bloom?
Then we know what we know.
That's part. I think that part of this discussion is hopefully that data collection becomes more routine than what what we have not done in the past. Because I do agree, we're going to get those fluctuations of years and flows and temperatures. You know, I mean, essentially, we're starting a process here that I think is going to, you know, if there's a commitment to it, you know, is gonna be a longer term type of of a program until we can, unless we truly get it under control and identify it and know exactly what it is. So I guess that'd be my response. You know, Doug, one set of data is only so good, right?
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I was going to say that you mentioned the watershed council I'm working with. That's not the watershed council you ought to be working with. That's the Clackamas Basin Watershed Council. John Boardman's a member of that board.
That's right.
And I would probably bring in the executive director into some of the general discussions of how he might be involved.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
John Borden wrote the three basins rule. I mean, he's the
Yeah,
author,
I
he's one of the
understand.
authors of it. And remember, and Doug's point is valid. What if we have a cool summer, which is doubtful, but it could. But remember this algae exists at different levels. It's not only on the surface. When you sample at different elevations.
Depths,
You may have
depths.
it at the bottom.
Okay, so I think I'm hearing we have a consensus to pass this proposed scope of work on to those three gentlemen and the gentleman from Lake Oswego for their comments or suggestions, then bring that back to us as soon as possible, and then do the RFQ and RFP process at the same time. Is that the consensus? And Mr. Conkle, do we need a motion to that effect? Or Commissioner
And-
O'Donnell, go ahead.
And I would modify that statement, Chair, to just include that if they want to write a specific proposal as to how they see it, they may agree with what's been put forward already, but they may have an entirely different approach. And if so, they shouldn't be limited to just evaluating the one submitted. They may want to submit an alternate approach they think is more effective. And I would encourage that.
That makes sense. Okay, Mr. Conkle, do we need a motion to that effect, or do you think you have your marching orders?
I feel if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. You were very clear in the three things. So
Okay, and I think I speak for all of us. We want to keep this moving.
Amen.
Okay, there's
John,
nothing
you good?
else?
John,
Yep, I'm good. I'm
Mr.
good.
Lewis, you set?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to item number 3, financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2023, and that I assume is Mr. Conkle and Mr. Zook.
There he is.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go ahead and turn this over to our finance director to provide the update.
Good evening, commissioners and Commissioner.
Whatever.
Yeah, sorry, I was wanting to congratulate you for being reelected to the chair. That's all I'm trying to say. So, hey, I wanted to present to you, as we did last 2 weeks ago, the financial reports for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023 for the Urban Renewal Agency. And this is the annual financial report. It's presented in your packet as well. And again, we had the same firm, Aldrich and Company, do the audit, and their opinion, as stated in the staff report, was an unmodified or clean opinion, which means that everything was presented fairly. There is a 3-page management discussion and analysis on pages 4 through 6, which are meant to be sort of the Reader's Digest version. I will state just some of the highlights. Basically, the position of the Urban Renewal Agency without considering capital assets is about 9.3 million of cash on hand, and that represents about three past years of tax revenue. Keep in mind that the budget coming forward, when I come back to you in a year, that the budget committee and Urban Renewal Commission agreed to not levy taxes in this upcoming fiscal year. So 9.3 million is about what you're going to have to work with moving forward until such time as you decide to levy taxes again. Get additional revenue from rentals and interest income, investment income. And our expenses are just a minor amount to the city for management and for legal expenses. So with that, I guess I will wrap up my staff report and entertain any questions.
I've got a couple of questions, but commissioners, let you all go first. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Neely.
Yes, I was just curious. I noticed the capital assets have dropped from last year to this year. Is there a specific reason that happened?
Depreciation.
Okay.
We didn't change any assets via sale or loss or anything like that. It's just pure annual depreciation, about 880,000 of depreciation, I believe. So.
Any other? Commissioner O'Donnell?
So during the UR budgetary process, we went through something, and then at the commission, we decided what we were going to levy and how much, and that was over a 2-year period. Can you refresh everyone's memory on how we were going to approach that over the 2-year period?
Yeah, thank you. The first year, which is the current year we're in, 2024-25, we did not levy any of the tax that we had eligible for the Urban Renewal Agency. In the second year, the motion and the resolution indicated that the Urban Renewal Agency would levy 25% of its maximum value that it could levy. So we do anticipate getting in the upcoming the future biennium or future fiscal year, we'll get about 3/4 or about 1/4 of $3 million, depending on how the assessed value comes in. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, anything else? Okay, I just got a couple of just curiosity questions.
Sure.
In their report, it's page 5 of their report. It's page 11 of the PDF that you sent, but on page 5, on the statement of activities, interest income in 2022 is a negative $30,000. How do you have negative interest?
Yeah, it's called mark to market. Basically, it's the value. We get interest payments coming in, but the value of the investment at the time, basically as of June 30, is undervalued, and that's all of our investments are at the local government investment pool, so they're all secure. It's just a bookkeeping entry as of June 30 as to the investment value in the stock market. So basically, it's not like we've sold at a loss or we gave any money back. It's just a measurement in time valuation that may basically state it as a negative. It's an awkward. I mean, we don't like it, but it's on June 29th, it could be entirely different. So it's a mark in time measurement of the market value.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
So the financial market right now is one of the strangest I've seen, with short-term money yielding higher interest than long-term money. How much flexibility do you have, Mr. Zook, in managing our investments to maximize the yield?
Well, I will say that right now, I mean, the flexibility is high, although it's hard to beat the local government investment pool, which is primarily short-term investments. And so we get the best value at the local government investment pool. And to your point, I mean, they're paying 5% right now. So the longer term assets, are yielding a lower value. So we can get fancy and get into an 18-month, 3-year type of investment, but at this point, it's just not where we're at. And you recall that the city's commission just approved an investment policy, which further would outline some of the flexibility that we have to do that. So, but at $9 million, all of it is basically in the local investment pool and making basically handled by the state professional investors. So.
Well, I appreciate that answer. And that actually is what I've seen in the market. 5% is a good yield, and you're better off not tying your money up long term because it's so more uncertain than the short term money. So thank you.
Sure. Right.
Any other questions from any of the commissioners?
If I'd just like to thank Matt and his team, once again. I think they've
Aaron,
done a great job with, managing the funds, tracking the funds, being transparent and how those funds are being utilized, as well as the preparation of the budget process and the budget document itself. So I think it's a good process, and glad you don't have any other questions.
No, I agree. I think Matt's done a great job in all respects, so thank you.
Thank you.
thank you,
Agreed.
Mr. Zook. It's the breakfast of champions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on in communications.
I do not have any tonight. Thank you.
Mayor McGriff.
Yes, Mr. Conkle, do we have any response back from our renter at Clackamas Landscapes
Any response?
regarding what we made the determination at our last meeting? So you were going to get,
He sent in his own letter indicating his interest in a maximum of 1 year, I believe, wasn't it?
right,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what he said, but just wanted to follow up, make sure that was all. Okay.
I can check. I haven't heard anything. We ended up, because we had originally proposed the contract, which was more typical of what we've historically done. And then after we posted that with the 2 year, the owner came back and said, hey, I really want to go to 1 year. So we amended that contract
Mhm.
at the night of the hearing and approved it that night. So I haven't heard any concerns.
Well, he signed it, I'm assuming.
I'm assuming, I honestly haven't checked. I'm assuming it's been signed.
Okay. Then the other question I had was about have we completed the sale of the property, the house? I assume we did.
The Gaffney Lane?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a property owned by the city through their transportation system or transportation department. So yes, that did close. I believe it was last week, and completed that sale. Yes.
Okay.
And do those proceeds just go to the general fund, or where do they go?
They were purchased with transportation
Okay.
funds, but they go back to the transportation fund.
Including any increase in value or just the original purchase price?
Matt, if you're still on, did we decide how we're allocating the funds from the sale of the Gaffney Lane property? I mean, at a minimum, the purchase price
Sure.
would go back to the original fund,
Right.
and any I think it was about any profit from the sale, does that go to our general
Same
fund?
fund. No, I
Same
go to the same fund.
Same fund.
I don't know. I don't have the book value of the house as to what we originally purchased it at. I could get back to the commission if they're interested.
Well, no, I just want to make sure we had followed through on the closing and that I knew where the money was going back to, and I'm sure that will make Mr. Lewis very happy, including any additional revenue that came off of the sale. So that just helps their fund balances.
He was the first to cash the check.
Was he?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Did you cash the check, John?
I believe it's been deposited. I don't think I saw it though, but I heard, and
It's a liar.
yeah, it's a transfer. I would just say that, well, I know we didn't lose money on that. There was a lot of costs associated with the project and
Fixing it back up. Yeah.
and then just dealing with the rental, and yeah, that was a tough sale because of the renter for sure. So, but I don't
Anything
think the
else?
city lost money.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, then we're adjourned and we'll see you at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Tony, can I ask you a question before you go? It has nothing to do with this.
Hold on one sec.
Is the
Hold it.
Vargas-
Hey, Doug, hold on one sec.
okay?
And we're broadcasting right now, Doug. So
Yeah, let me,
Yeah.
can I,